All right, guys. So we're gonna continue with the vSAN. And last time I was stuck. It was the vSAN when I was configuring the drives. So I was not able to see the VCSA machine. So, but later I found out, did a troubleshooting in 20 minutes. I realized that if I restart all the machines, then it updates all the hardware changes, virtual hardware changes. So I'll show you. I'll just quickly start that. Well, basically it was resolved. So we will continue with the vSAN configuration. I'll start with the 2 GB RAM. And E6A1 is 12 GB. And E6I2, 6. I think, yeah, all of those are supposed to be 6 GB. 6I3, 6 GB. And E6I4. So it's kind of overcommitting, but it does work. So we're gonna just revise again what we were doing. Okay, so what we were doing was, I'll just, yeah. In fact, there's another way I wanted to show this. Okay. So what we were doing was that we were creating a highly available data store. Okay, so this visual I need to get used to. Until then, I'll stick to paintbrush. So vSAN was the highly available storage. vSAN offers cheap, highly available storage that also where where data can also be encrypted and compressed. So last time what we were talking about is that the data, the SAN solutions normally offer highly available storage and encryption and redundancy. So vSAN, without putting a dent in your pocket, in your company's budget, you can also achieve highly available storage with your current physical servers or current hypervisors and your current unused hard disks. And the idea was that if you just create, if you have minimum of 3 hypervisors, then you can simply, or so then you can simply create that vSAN. And how it was possible, you just have to have 3, actually we're going to be adding, or we added already, 2 700 GB disks and 2 unused disks, or you can go up to 35 unused disks in a machine. You can use those unused disks. So this is one default disk, and then we were adding 2 more disks. Also, we added network cards here, just like other machines. But these disks were supposed to be 5 disks, 2 5 disks. We have added physical disks that we've added in production environment with physical disks. But the idea was that adding 2 or whatever number you want to use, and then create a big data store. Create a data store comprising of these disks. So this one big data store that you can create on the local disks of minimum 3 hypervisors, and it would be connected to this data store. So it will be comprising of the 3 local disks, minimum 2 local disks of unused disks of 3 hypervisors, and this. So obviously, if you have here 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte each disks here, 1 terabyte each here, 1 terabyte here. So you have suppose 6 terabyte here, right? So total size of the disk, whatever it offers, will be the size of this full data store that is created on minimum 2 disks of 3 hypervisors. That's also minimum 3 hypervisors. So it would be 6 terabytes. Suppose these were all each 1 terabyte. So this whole data store will be 6 terabyte. Whatever virtual machine you create on top of that. So, well, when we're creating this, so this is software SAN that we created. So alternate of this SAN is this virtual SAN, because we had a software SAN, but companies normally have very expensive SAN solutions there. So we were pretending that this is that very expensive SAN solution. If you can't afford that SAN solution here, then you can do this with minimum 3 physical servers or hypervisors with minimum at least minimum 2 disks each unused. So when you create a virtual machine, obviously the virtual machine will be created on top of the data store, vSAN data store. By default, when this data store gets created on top of the unused disks of 3 hypervisors, so that data store is also automatically gets the name of vSAN data store. And it offers a lot of space. It offers high availability as well. So vSAN data store. So when you see that data store is successfully created, so you will realize that it has named itself automatically vSAN data store. Otherwise, when we create a data store, we name it ourselves. So once that vSAN data store is created, it's comprising of the total size. Suppose it's 6 terabyte. Now, virtual machines would be created across this data store, and they will be highly available. Suppose there are 10 virtual machines here, there are 15 virtual machines here, according to the rest of the hardware as well, and 14 virtual machines here. So all those virtual machines are created on top of this vSAN data store. Now, what happens is, or where's the benefit of creating this data store? What's the benefit? First benefit is that it is cheap. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on hardware SAN solution. Second thing, it's just comprising of the whatever unused disks you have in minimum of the 3 hypervisors. Third thing is that when this since you will be using the unused disks of 3 hypervisors, so maybe those disks are 2 terabyte each or 5 terabyte each. The storage has become so cheap nowadays. So so that's why it's beneficial. Then you can use that unused storage you have. And then the fifth benefit is that if there are minimum 3 hypervisors, and if one hypervisor goes down, then what happens? So if a hypervisor, one of the 3 hypervisors goes down, so vSAN can tolerate the loss of one hypervisor, but it cannot tolerate the loss of two hypervisors. If two hypervisors are down, so if one hypervisor is down, the vSAN data store will still be available. What's going to be not available will be the disk size that was comprised of the two disks of this supposed crashed hypervisor. So if it was 1 terabyte each, and all of those disks were one terabyte, suppose, so total was 6 terabyte. When this crashes, so it will be 4 terabyte total size. We will see if one hypervisor crashes. So the vSAN data store total size will be then 4 terabyte, because these disks are down. If they're down, their size will not be available. They won't be. We won't be able to use them. So that's one thing. But the virtual machines. So also, the virtual machines that were on the crashed hypervisor, since the hypervisor crashed, so HA kicks in at that time. And what HA does is that it's going to restart the machines on the surviving hypervisors. But if those machines, whichever critical machines had FT configured, fault tolerance, so this means they were partners of this virtual machine in some other hypervisor as well. So obviously they would just fail over right away. If there were no FT configured on the virtual machines, then they would be restarted. HA will kick in then. The three hypervisors, one hypervisor goes down, the capacity it was giving will be gone immediately from the vSAN data store. The virtual machines that are running on top of the crashed hypervisor will be restarted on the other hypervisors. And when this hypervisor comes back, obviously, all the benefits will be back as well. So it will still be redundant, the whole vSAN data store. And second thing, the capacity will be back again from 4 terabyte to 6 terabyte. Now, if this happens, two hypervisor goes down, then the whole thing goes down. So the whole vSAN data store will not be available. And whatever virtual machines were up there, obviously, will not be functioning. And until you get that second hypervisor also up and running. So that's the main thing here, to understand that it's a cheap storage, it's highly available cheap storage. Minimum 3 hypervisors are needed with minimum 2 unused disks of each hypervisor. And it can tolerate the loss of one hypervisor, and still the vSAN data store will still work. And the virtual machines that were running from this E6i2 on the vSAN data store and E6i4 on this data store, those virtual machines will still keep on running if any, and the crash hypervisor machines will be restarted. So that's how the whole vSAN data store concept works. And many companies, as I said last time, many companies have adopted this solution, and only through the solution they are doing business globally. So there's Nutanix and there is SoftGrid. There are many other companies that are still offering this same solution. And that solution is also called HCI, which is also called Hyper Converged Infrastructure, which basically means you're just using the local unused SSD drives of minimum 3 hypervisors to create a SAN solution or highly available data store. So those companies just say, hey, our hypervisors are just ready. You want to put Hyper-V, or you want to put ESXi hypervisor, or you want to put Citrix Zen server, which is also a hypervisor, whichever you want to put. So you get vSAN, or this solution of, it's called vSAN here. It's called storage spaces in Microsoft. And if the Citrix has provided, offered it, so I have to just check what Citrix calls it. Then there is Linux, Red Hat also have this solution. Their hypervisor is called KVM. but I have to just check that what's the name there for the same solution. So the thing is that the companies are doing business on that concept. Now, understanding the purpose and benefits of this, what we had done already last class was that we installed the E6i4. We gave it 3 network cards and 2 disks. We're going to be confirming now that. And we joined it to the vCenter. We then joined it to also the cluster. So we're going to have to confirm that E6i4 is exactly part of this whole cluster. So we could initiate, the vSAN configuration. If I go back to my environment and I connect from the Windows, okay, it kicked me out. Let me kick myself in. And okay, so the 3 hypervisors. So the third hypervisor that was not there in earlier labs is there for the vSAN lab only. Has been not only added to the data center, but it is added to the cluster as well. And since it's showing this yellow warning, if I go to the hypervisor itself and go to the summary of that, so yeah, so nothing much here, though no red signs there. And the yellow one only says that you should have 2 network cards connecting to this from vCenter to hypervisor, which is okay. We can ignore that in a test environment. So it's a best practice in production environments. But if you don't have it, still it works fine. So the third hypervisor, E6i4, is already added to the cluster, which is okay. I just need to check some more things here. If I go to E6i4, so is it 6 GB? Yes, it's 6 GB. And it got an IP from the local DHCP. We haven't given it a static IP because it's just used for this lab. And if I right click here and settings, so the 2 disks, 700 GB each, which were supposed to be added to 3 and 2 as well, are here in 4, hypervisor 4. Also, the 2 network cards that we needed there for best practice configuration are also there in the 4 and supposed to be in 3 and 2 already because they have total 10 network cards. So we're kind of good here. And if I go to the lab steps that I put last time, so 3 hypervisors on the same patch level, is the patch level. Last time I did patch the 4th hypervisor as well. We need two unused disks, so this should be in all 3 hypervisors. I checked on 4, but I believe I put it already on 2nd and 3rd. Well, the 2 disks are there. Yeah, network cards were already there. And E6i2, because vSAN comprises of these 2 unused disks, right? So that is something critical for the vSAN to even start getting configured. So yeah, 700 GB disks are there. Now this is needed. We need to configure the VM kernel adapter with unique IPs on all 3 hypervisors, E6i2, 3, and 4. That is not done yet. E6i4 needs to have 3 NICs. Yes, that is done. Add an A record for E6i4. If E6i4 has been added by name, which it is, so this means the A record in the DNS is already there. That's why we were able to add it by name in the VMware environment. So that's done. A record. Add E6i4 to vCenter and TorDC inside the Tor cluster as well. Yeah, so add E6i4 to vCenter in TorDC, and also inside the Tor cluster, which is under the vCenter, Tor DC data center. HA will deploy its agent to E654. Yes, that is also done. Bring up the E654 to the patch level. Yep, done. Then start the configuration of vSAN. Before we start the configuration of vSAN, yeah, so this is before thing. The vSAN can be deployed when HA is turned off. So this is kind of a prep. It's confirmed. So vSAN needs to, so first we need to turn off HA in order to configure vSAN. We're gonna actually see the error. In fact, I just want to show you the error. Then start the configuration of vSAN. Okay. So one thing remaining is the VM kernel adapter. So this step is remaining, and the turning of the HA is remaining. So turning off the HA will be remaining in this step. So I'll just go for in progress for this step, and also vSAN carrier byte. Yeah. So this is remaining. Okay. So I'm just going to go for creating a VM kernel adapter. Remember that VM kernel adapter is used in, it's part of the virtual standard switch, and it is used to configure those the network services for advanced features. So now we're adding vSAN, which is an advanced feature. Before we added fault tolerance, VM kernel adapter, before that we added it for vMotion. So now vSAN. Now I'm going to create, so whichever hosts are taking part in the vSAN, I'm going to have to create the VM kernel adapter in all of them. And VM kernel adapter always uses it needs unique IPs. So we're going to go for unique IPs as well. I'm just going to go ahead and create the VM kernel adapter for all three hypervisors. So if I go to the environment, so this section. Okay. So I'm going to go to E6I2 here. Oh, apologies. So I'll have to sign out again. Okay. Yeah. I'm on A6I2 now, and I'm going to go to the configure. That's where everything is. And just like before, I need to go to the virtual VM kernel adapters. So previously we deployed the VM kernel adapters to introduce an advanced feature called vMotion, then FT. So for vMotion, we used the IP, static IP 5 and 6 because there were two machines used in the vMotion. Then for FT, two machines were used, but the next IPs were 7 and 8 were used there for fault tolerance. So now there are three machines for vSAN. So 8, 9, 10, 11, we can use those unless we have used 9, 10. Yeah, 10 we have actually used for our this machine. I think we did. We have used 10 already. Yeah, so 7, 8 were used for FT. So we can just go for anything more. 7, 8, 9, 10, instead of 9, 10, 11, I'm going to go for 11, 12, 13. So 11 would be the VM kernel adapter IP for E6I2, 12 for E6I3, and 13 for E6I4. And so I'm going to start adding VM kernel adapter for vSAN, so we could configure vSAN. VM kernel adapter helps configure all this, and we're just configuring this. So if I go next here, and then It's a new standard switch that we are creating for best practices. So, and why we're creating a new standard switch? Because we have enough network cards to put dedicated two network cards for just the traffic of vSAN. Just like we created a new switch with dedicated two network cards for vMotion and FT. We're going to create that because we have enough network cards. That's why we're doing that. Otherwise, we won't be doing it if we have less network cards. And whatever network cards are available, we would just have to carefully select those network cards that whichever network cards has lesser amount of bandwidth being used already. So there you could just put vSAN as well if you have less. Anyway, I'm going to go for a new standard switch next, and then it's asking for active network cards. So whichever next two available, and put those two dedicated network cards only for the vSAN traffic. Next. So here we will just name it exactly this vSAN. And no VLAN ID, IP setting before, MTU, we're not changing that. TCP IP stack does not offer, other than provisioning and vMotion, it does not offer the dedicated traffic. So I'll just select this vSAN. So obviously in future, suppose in production environment, you're introducing even more features. You can select those features on this network switch and the two network cards. You can even put more advanced features here. Each of these advanced features do generate a lot of traffic. So just check that how much traffic will be generated. Anyway, I'm just selecting vSAN here and next. As we decided about the IP, it could get IP from DHCP, and in the DHCP, you can reserve them, or as many administrators go this way, that they just keep away this critical resources from away from the DHCP. Now I'm just going to, as we decided, 11 is for 2, 12 IPs for 3, hypervisor number 3, and 13 IPs for hypervisor 4. And this gateway is the same, so we're not changing the gateway. Next. So then finish. So the Kernel Adapter that will help configure vSAN is created here in E6i2. I'm going to go for E6i3 now. And I'll be creating that here as well. Add networking, pretty much same steps. New standard switch. And two dedicated network cards only for vSAN. And then IP4 setting. So that last one was 11, this will be 12. So net and no change in gateway and finish. We're going to do the same thing for the E6i4 as well. Now it does not have vMotion because we just introduced it for vSAN. vMotion does not need vSAN. So vSAN does not need vMotion. Also, so vSAN does not need FT as well. So if you see the previous machines, hypervisors, so they have FT and vMotion already configured. But this is a new machine that is only for the purpose of vSAN. So since FT and vMotion are not needed for the vSAN to work, so we're good here. Although in a production environment, you would definitely want the 4th hypervisor or 5th or 20th hypervisor. If you wanted to take part in vMotion, that whenever the machine is about to migrate, or DRS lets you automatically migrate the machine. So this hypervisor will also be used. So for that purpose in production environment, you must configure the, vMotion FT, but for vSAN purpose only, we don't need that. So I'm just going to click add networking here. and Vmware Adapter, next. New standard switch, next. Well, I added 2 extra network cards just to follow the vendor best practice. And then the vSAN here. Next. And IP4 setting. So now the IP would be 13, 11, 12, 13. Did I do something here? 13. All right, next and finish. So as far as the VM kernel adapter configuration for the vSAN is concerned, it's done. So if we go back to check out the notes here, so yes, this is now done. So let's remove this VM kernel adapter, and now in order to create vSAN data store comprising of the minimum 2 disks of minimum 3 hypervisors. So I need to start configuring the vSAN, and for that, HA has to be temporarily turned off. When vSAN is fully configured, then HA can be turned on again. And HA, obviously, we need HA for our whole environment, but vSAN cannot be configured if HA is turned on. But I'll still go ahead and try to now configure the vSAN on the cluster level for the 3 hypervisors, because vSAN needs minimum 3 hypervisors. So I'm going to start. I'll just right click here. There's that vSAN licensing here. So Tor cluster, configure. If you go way down here, there's a vSAN cluster here. Licensing data is not available. Only customers with enable vSAN require licensing. Okay. If I go down to services, so it says vSAN is turned off. So that's what we want to do. Remember that I haven't turned off HA yet. I'm just going to click configure here. So it says that, hey, you want to configure vSAN, then there are different models for this, which one you want to follow. So it says here right away at the bottom of the page, turn off vSphere HA to turn on off vSAN. So there you go. You can't go ahead if HA is turned on. So I'm just going to cancel out from here. I'll go up temporarily. I will be suspending HA. So vSphere availability, I'm going to click edit and turn off HA. It removes its agents from the hypervisors. I'll be going to turn off the proactive HA as well. That turns off, that affects the DRS as well. Well, DRS is still on. Okay, so HA and proactive HA both are off temporarily. And we're going to go way down to the bottom, services, configure. And there is a single site cluster. Now, there are different ways to deploy it. So there is single site cluster. There is single site cluster with custom fault domains, 2-node vSAN cluster, and then there is stretched cluster. So a single site cluster, each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. So what is a fault domain? And what is single site cluster? Let me just quickly grab that. So for let me just quickly grab that information, then I'll just explain with the diagrams as well. So vSAN disk group deduplication, it supports. I'm just reading on the other side. Just to grab quickly a good diagram I was just looking for. Okay, so servers with local storage. So if I just drag this here, now this is what we were. We're actually going to go ahead on this. I'll just put that as a good read on the page. So it's, vSAN 7 technology, but just wanted to talk about the availability side of it because this one is still coming. This topic of what is cache disk and what is capacity disk, because we're about to start configuring vSAN and vSAN vSphere hypervisor cluster types. So yeah, there is that standard cluster. And if I go back to the environment, so single site cluster, there is single site cluster with custom fault domains, two node vSAN cluster, stretched cluster. So standard vSAN cluster consists of a minimum of 3 physical nodes and can be scaled up to 64 nodes. Yeah, you can just put 64, but we already have 3 node. So we're going to go ahead and two node cluster. A two node cluster consists of 2 physical nodes in the same location. These hosts are usually connected to the same network switch or are directly connected. So you can see that there are 2 node cluster you can also create there, and that means all these pairs are just one vSAN, so remote 2 node vSAN cluster. Direct connections between hosts eliminate the need to procure and manage an expensive network switch for a 2 node cluster, which lowers costs, especially in remote office deployments, while 10 Gbps connections may be directly connected. So it's just saying that each 2 node deployment until vSAN 7 required a dedicated witness appliance. vSAN 7 update 1 introduces the capability to use a shared witness appliance instance across multiple 2 node. Up to 64 2 node clusters can share a single witness. Okay, let me just explain in English now. So 2 node cluster is that you have before 7 VCP 7, what used to happen is that for a 2 node cluster you need a appliance as well. Now this is a special feature of vSAN. If you want to go this way, that you can have 2 nodes available. So 2 nodes are what? The hypervisors, ESXi suppose 2 and ESXi 3. And here, witness node. So what is the purpose of a witness node? Was the purpose of witness, or still is actually, that it keeps an eye on whichever is up and whichever is down. So they're both active nodes there, and they are in a cluster as well, which means that the work is going on, and both are taking the whole traffic and the compute that is required. So if one of them, so what happens is that witness keeps receiving I'm alive packets per second from both nodes. And that's the work of the witness, that it keeps an eye on which node is up and which node is down. So if one of the node is down, then it says, so if it is in active configuration there, it's already, the other one is already working. And they can also be in active passive configuration or active standby configuration, where then witness node simply informs the passive node, hey, you're it now, the other one has gone, and you're the new active node now. So in that case, so the purpose of a witness, it's also a concept in SQL. It's also used in SQL databases, also used in Exchange servers, which are the email servers, where you can have a witness node that its only job is to make sure that if the active is down, that the passive is up ASAP, as soon as possible. Suppose the witness is down and for some reason there's a disconnection or witness node from the active passive node, and the active node also goes down. So passive will not have any way to know that active is down and I'm supposed to be the new active now. So witness node tells the passive node or standby node, hey, you're active now because I lost communication from the active node. So that's what it's saying, witness, and it was saying shared witness. So shared witness is that if you have lots of pairs here, that two node cluster here, two hypervisors having their local disks being used for vSAN, and two node cluster are all there. But before, it used to be that you have to create a witness for each of the pair here, and the witness job is, again, as we talked about, that it just keeps it receives I'm alive packets per second, and if one of them goes down, or whichever is active goes down, then the other one becomes the new active, or at least other one is informed that its traffic is also being redirected in case of that they are active. So that was the case in older versions. Now they're saying that only one witness node is needed in 7.1 version. It will receive heartbeats per second. I'm alive packets, I'm alive. So those packets it will receive from pretty much all other two node clusters, and you don't need for each pair a witness. Just one witness for 64 nodes is also enough. So that's just the improvement, but we understand the basic working of a two node cluster and what does the witness really do here. So, and then there's talking about stretched cluster here. A vSAN stretched cluster provides resiliency against the loss of an entire site, the whole branch. The hosts in a stretched cluster are distributed evenly across two sites. So you got 6 hosts there or 8 hosts there. So 4 here in Toronto site, suppose, and 4 here in New York site here. So you can just stretch it across that and witness traffic. So there is that, any node that can be a witness as well, either the node here, extra hypervisor here, and extra hypervisor here, they are witnesses and they are telling each other as well, hey, yes, I'm good. Are you good? And it's saying, yes, we are also good. Are you good? So there's a heartbeat going on between the two witnesses there that, yes, my environment is okay. Is yours okay or not? And this is a secondary site. So the two sites are well connected from a network perspective with a round trip time RTT, round trip time RTT latency of of no more than 5 milliseconds only. So they are really pretty fast in communicating with each other and telling them each other that, hey, I'm okay. Are you okay? I'm okay. Are you okay? So a vSAN witness host is placed at a third site. So that is supposed to be actually the third site where you can place it, not exactly on that site. So it would be third branch here. Obviously, for a big environment, you would have those this kind of setup. So third site to avoid split brain issues if connectivity is lost between the two stretched cluster sites. A vSAN stretched cluster may have a maximum of 30 hosts in the cluster and can be distributed proportionally or disproportionately. In cases where there is a need for more hosts across sites, additional vSAN stretch cluster. So overall, a branch here would, it could be even Azure site or AWS site in the same region where they are the branches, or it could be just rented out data center, one node from there. Hey, I want just a one witness node from you in that local data center. So or it could be third branch of the company. So it just makes sure witness node or witness site that if one side is down, so the other side could be informed, or all the users could be redirected to the other side. That so it's just about how to react as fast as possible. That's what witness is for in case of disaster happening. So secondary becomes the primary site, and everyone connects to this site. That's a stretch cluster. And there are then mesh computer center computer cluster as well, where the witnesses could be in any of those sites. You take one of my nodes as a witness, I take one of your nodes as a witness, and we interchange our heartbeats. So mesh just means mixed clusters. So that could also be possible. So if I just go back to this, so single site cluster, each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. Now, what was the fault domain here? Fault domain was not really mentioned here. If I go for domain, okay. So there's the fault domains. So fault domain is a term that comes up often in availability discussions. In IT, a fault domain usually refers to a group of servers, storage, and or networking components that would be impacted collectively by an outage. A common example of this is a server rack. So just like if you have seen a server rack before, a rack with maybe 5 Dell servers or 10 HP servers, if a top of rack switch or the power distribution unit for a server rack would fail, it would take all the servers in that rack offline. Obviously, if the full rack has is down, the 20 servers or 10 servers or 5 servers that it was keeping, those all servers, if there's no electricity to the rack, all the servers inside the rack will lose the electricity as well, obviously. So offline, even though the server hardware is functioning properly. So that server rack is considered a fault domain. Each host in a vSAN cluster is an implicit fault domain. vSAN automatically distributes components of a vSAN object. I'll be creating a diagram for that object across fault domains in a cluster based on the number of failures to tolerate rule in the associated assigned storage policy. The following diagram shows a simple example of component distribution across hosts or fault domains. The two larger components are mirrored copies of the object, and the smaller component represents the witness component. Okay, so let's go down. Protecting from one failure would require 2 times 1 plus 1 or 3 hosts. Where's the diagram? Yeah, there's a diagram. So it says here that each host, this is actually rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, rack 4. So one rack, just like one rack is a fault domain. So this means that, let me just annotate that now, or I could just copy. All right, here. So this here is a fault domain number 1. And let's just take an example of what happens in a fault domain. Okay, I create here. So fault domain number 1 and fault domain number 2. So the basic idea behind that is, suppose that's fault domain 1 and fault domain, It's just called fault domain, actually, not exactly one and two. So they're just fault domain. Now, what that means is you create a virtual machine here in one fault domain, which is one rack. And why is this rack being considered a fault domain? Okay, why not these two are fault domain? Why not? Okay, this single one is fault domain. Why a full rack is fault domain? So when it comes to the rack example, suppose you have a UPS, uninterrupted power supply, for this rack, and that is UPS. Or if you have a switch that is connected to this rack. Now, any hardware or any service, they are connected to that if it goes down, everything goes down with it on this particular rack. So this is a fault domain where one rack is connected to either a switch or a power supply, that if either the switch goes down, so all these machines lose network connectivity, or the UPS goes down, they don't have a redundancy here, right? So this is also called SPOF. If they have a SPOF, right? Single point of failure. So if they have a SPOF, they're called fault domain. Like there's a single point of failure there. Obviously, the company should invest in having multiple switches for each rack. Sometimes it's such a huge network that a rack gets one switch. That's good. Each rack gets one switch. That's good. Maybe the critical machine hosting racks may get two switches, but not every rack gets it. So they're just saying that if the rack has, or a host has, a single point of failure, that if UPS goes down, everything goes down, switch goes down, everyone disconnects. So that is called fault domain. So now this is the same thing for each and every rack here. So every rack has the same switch here. So not same, a separate unique switch, unique switch, unique UPS, right? So if switch or UPS goes for any one of those, that would be a SPOF, and they would just disconnect or go down. Okay, so how does it all work? Yes, we know that it's a fault domain. Okay, so what? So what happens is you create a virtual machine in a fault domain. So that virtual machine's copy gets created in another fault domain. Obviously, now the picture should be clear right away that, oh, okay, so when this is considered fault domain and you create a resource on top of that, or a virtual machine, its copy must be created on another fault domain, which means that it's kind of FT or fault tolerance kind of configuration here, but not exactly FT processes and procedures we follow, but it is like FT, and it's all automatic, that you consider one fault domain here, there has to be a copy created on another fault domain. Now, now we know that, okay, SPOF, the switch goes down, the whole rack is disconnected, the traffic is redirected to its backup, its copy there, right? And or the UPS goes down, everything's down. Obviously, there's a copy in another fault domain. So when they are talking about fault domains, and there should be 3 servers there, they were actually saying here in that definition, in those rules, that protecting one from one failure would require 2 times 1 plus 1 or 3 hosts. So this means that total 3 hosts, and third host is a witness. So in this example, if 2 hosts are configured as fault domain, the third, some machine here in this, or some machine somewhere else within the same network, could be a witness. So there has to be a witness, because witness is the only one that tells each fault domain, hey, the other one is down, you're up now, you're it, your machines are supposed to be, you got the copies of all the machines of this fault domain. So that fault domain, I can't get any heartbeats coming from this fault domain. I'm the witness here, and I'm telling you now that you're it, you're the primary, and your secondary machines are now will now become primary machines, and everyone will be connecting to you. So the witness has to be there to tell or wake up the standby machine that you're it now, and you can just. So that's what it was saying here in terms of fault domains, stretch clusters, and two node clusters. I will that a good read. So if I go back here to the actual configuration, so single site cluster, each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. So it's just, so we were talking about rack here, but exactly that's the example they are giving us. In our case, it's our host. Each host is a fault domain. Each host is considered a fault domain. So, well, we already have that diagram here. So this is all. These are our hosts, and this means that this host is one fault domain. This host is a second fault domain. This host is the third fault domain. So FD, FD, FD. This means that if you create a virtual machine here, its copy will be automatically created here in the second fault domain. If the host goes down, one fault domain goes down, then the copy on the other fault domain just becomes active, and all traffic from the downed host gets redirected to the other fault domain. So these each host is considered a fault domain. That's what they are trying to say in the first one here. So single site cluster, each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. Now that's exactly what we intend to do. That this is what we're going to create. We don't have a lot of hosts. Then there is that single cluster, single site cluster with custom fault domains, single site cluster with custom defined fault domains without a witness host. So you can define here in this that, okay, I'm just declaring that, um, uh, well, the diagram should be the other one, which is our, so I'm just declaring that this guy, this guy, and this is the supposed to be the two fault domains, and this will be the witness. Or so custom defined just means that you can just define anyone. Hey, you will be the witness, others will be the fault domain. You can tell the other ones that which one is up, which one is down. So you can just custom do that. Otherwise, they in a two node cluster, it's just defined already automatically, or even a four node cluster, it's defined. Two node cluster, we talked about that already. You must have exactly two hosts in the cluster to configure a two node vSAN cluster. We have actually four hosts total now. So it's not gonna make exactly two node cluster. We're not intending to make two node cluster. We're just going for a full site, single site cluster, including three hosts. Stretch cluster, we talked about that you must have three branches and even number of hosts divided among the two branches. The third one is for the witness. So we're going to go for the single site cluster here, and that is each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. I'm going to click next. And okay, so there's a selection services to enable. Now, what we're doing here is that when we are considering here that, okay, so these are the three nodes here that are taking part in the vSAN, and we're going to be creating a vSAN data store on top of that. So what kind of services you want? So services include you want to have here. Let me go for some of So you want to have here encryption, and do you want compression? It's a storage, right? So storage offers these kind of services, or data deduplication. Dedupe, we also call it deduplication. So deduplication, you want that, you want encryption, you want compression, or uh, if there is anything else they say or they miss. So space efficiency, it's data at rest encryption. So if I just go drop down here, compression only, deduplication and compression both. So what is, we all know compression, it just compresses the data to free up more space there. Then there is deduplication. So do you want deduplication here as well? And deduplication is just that if you have a storage here and that storage has lots of files here, suppose you have a file here, if you have a file here, finding nemo.mp4, and you just copied it into your storage. Then later some date, after 6 months, maybe you found that mp4 somewhere else and you forgot that you already have it, and you actually copied it to another sub folder. And then in the same storage, maybe after some time, you just made a copy from somewhere. Lots of movies were there, but one of them was also Finding Nemo. So there are three places in the same storage you have exactly the same file. So deduplication just goes to check that, okay, it's the same file, same kind of file architecture here, exactly, no changes whatsoever, exact same size, exact same um, signature of the file as well. So deduplication then considers is that these are exactly the same files. So then it simply deletes the copies of the file and make shortcuts there. And shortcuts are leading to the actual working file. So even if you've never gone to the actual file folder, you've gone to this folder and you double click it. So the actual file with is not there. It's just a shortcut leading to the actual file here, which is actually occupying the size of the disk, whatever size it's taking. So that really then saves a huge amount of space there on the drive. So deduplication really carefully makes sure that it's not deleting something that has some kind of unique signature or unique setting there. If it's exactly the same file from many factors, it checks that, and then it says that, okay, I now decide that this is exactly the same file, delete, 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 wherever it is across the storage. And only one of that file occupies this disk space. Others are just shortcuts to that. So even if you reach here, you still get to open the file or copy the file. So that's deduplication. So do you want deduplication here, or do you want compression or just compression here? So it's up to you. What do you want there? You can just select that. Then how do you want encryption? Do you want data at rest encryption? So at rest is obviously the data that is not moving over the network, that is not being copied. Whatever data is just placed on the disk, do you want it encrypted? And there is that wipe residual data here. This setting directs vSAN to wipe existing data from the storage devices before they are encrypted. This option can significantly increase the time to process each disk. So do not choose it unless you have unwanted data on the disk. So if there is some kind of temporary files there from the internet and some log files that have never been checked, or files pretty very old, then it just gets rid of that, and then it encrypts the files that are being used and have the possibility of being used. Data in transit encryption, do you want the data that is actually moving over the network, is being copied over the network, transferred over the network, you want it encrypted? So for that, there is And rekey is just, there are always keys for encryption and decryption. And you can always put it on rotation to change the key as well. So it's just saying every day, do you want to change the key? So hackers would not just grab hold of the decryption key and decrypt your data and steal it. So then there is large scale cluster support, and that is if you have by default vSAN cluster can only grow up to 32 nodes. But by setting this option, vSAN cluster is allowed to grow up to large scale at maximum to 64 nodes. So by default, it's not large scale. By default, it is 32 nodes. We have just 3 of them, right? So, but it can go up to 32. And if you select this option, then it can go to 64 node vSAN cluster as well. Okay, so we get the options here that whatever you want to choose, you can choose those according to your needs. So I'm going to go next here. Now, it's going to try to claim disks here. The disks that are added. Oops, no disks select. So it has to see those unchecked disks, unused disks. It has to see those disks to claim them. If I go to the diagram here, so I was saying that we have given 2 disks, 700 GB each, unused new 2 disks to all the 3 hypervisors. And these 6 total disks need to be detected by vSAN. So disks model, I'm saying that I want vSAN to check host wise. So as many hosts are there, so it should see the disks. So that view should be there, so I can check and see that yes, there's 2 disks 46i2, 2 disks 46i3, and 2 disks 46i4. So this means at least we are seeing all the disks. Sometimes the disks are not showing. In that case, make sure that the disks were added to the host and then restart the host and then come back here and check. Well, the good thing is it's already showing. Now it's saying here that the vSAN is saying, hey, okay, I see your 2 empty disks on each hypervisor, and I want to claim them. I want to add them to the vSAN to offer you the vSAN data store on top of them. So in order for the vSAN to have these disks added to vSAN, so we need to actually add those disks, and there's a process for that. So you can have those disks. Now there's a thing called marked as HDD. Okay, there is another requirement that I was supposed to mention here, and that is there has to be at least 1 HDD and at least 1 SSD. So that's kind of a unique environment and requirement, and it's still there. Although we know that now SSDs are so has gone cheaper, and companies can actually are able to buy a lot of SSDs in not a huge price. But they still haven't removed that option of that requirement of 1 HDD and 1 SSD. So now suppose you have actually all SSDs in your hypervisor. Then my VMware has actually given an option here to fool the vSAN into thinking that, hey, don't worry, vSAN, we are fulfilling your requirement of 1 HDD and 1 SSD. HDD is hard disk drive, which is slow. SSD is solid state drive, which is fast. So you can actually mark a disk as HDD just to fulfill the requirements of vSAN. That don't worry, we have a HDD here, while maybe actually it's an SSD. Maybe you purchased all SSDs, but there are many companies that have older hardware, or even if they are purchasing now and they don't have the budget, but they still need to have some kind of vSAN solution here. So they're still buying HDD type of disks as well as SSD. So VMware has kept it cheaper. And okay, so there's a requirement that had been coming here since vSAN was introduced lots of years ago, a decade ago. So this requirement is still there, that you have to have one HDD and one SSD. So if you have all SSDs, still mark one as HDD. So you're fooling the vSAN into thinking that SSD actually is HDD. Also, one more thing, HDDs are used for storing infrequent data, and obviously the SSDs are. So HDD is used for capacity, which means that we can store infrequently accessed data, while SSDs are used as cache. So cache is, just like in servers, the data is cached. So data is stored on fast performing disks to be frequently accessed and frequently used. So whatever frequently used data is there is placed on fast disks, that because it is being frequently used. So SSD are used as cache, where frequently used data is placed. Okay, frequently used data is placed, and so SSDs. Okay, so when I come here and I tell vSAN, hey vSAN, don't worry, we have one disk that is HDD and the other disk is actually still flash. And also this HDD disk is the capacity tier and the flash is cache tier, right? So one is for capacity, for infrequently used data, other is for caching for frequently used data. So right now it's saying configuration not recommended. Some hosts are claiming less disks than others. Yes, I haven't configured the rest of them, but this is how we can configure the rest of them. So if I go for marked as HDD, other one is still flash. So this is for capacity to have infrequently used data, and the other one is for cache for frequently used data. Again, third one, capacity and flash, so that is for cached here. Now, when I have marked them accordingly, so the error is gone now. So this means, and it says that vSAN capacity is 2 terabyte. It was 700 GB each. So it's like 4.2 terabyte, right? 4.2 terabyte. So because there are 6 disks, so there's 2 terabyte here. This vSAN cache capacity, and sorry, cache is here, and the other one is the capacity. So this is capacity written here just for infrequently used data, and this is for cache written here for frequently used data. So it's 2 terabyte each of that. So it has been told you have enough disks here, and I'm just gonna click next, and how it wanted those disks have also been arranged. So this is it. It's at the end, we're at the end of it, and there could be errors here, but what we're expecting is if it all goes well, then a vSAN data store. So data stores are normally shown here in the this storage section. So here we're expecting a data store should be created, which is called vSAN data store. Normally we create data stores ourselves, next, right? And we name the data stores like there was that S1, DS1, and so and then LAN1, right? So we were creating data stores. We were giving the names here. We have told vSAN, hey, we got all the disks, minimum 6 disks for you from 3 hypervisors. All your conditions are met. Why don't you create a one big vSAN data store comprising of the local disks of 3 hypervisors. So that's what we're expecting. One big data store comprising of, it's created on top of the 2 disks of each all 3 hypervisors. I'm going to click finish here, and it goes through the process a little longer. So what's going on here? Update vSAN configuration, SSI3, it's checking all the configuration, checking all nick and corners of its requirements being met or not. And if all requirements are met and there are no errors, then it's supposed to create one big data store. I think so. It's 4 GB data store, 4 terabyte data store. We're expecting it because it's 700 GB, 6 disks having 7 GB each. So we're expecting a 4 terabyte data store, right? So yeah, it's going to do its whole configuration. And it would be a good idea to give 6 GB RAM to each host. If it's just 4 GB RAM given to each host, that's not, it's supposed to work, but it kind of didn't work in way back when we were doing that. So more capacity is always a good idea. This means that underlying hardware has to be having more RAM in this case. It's kind of a longer process. And this first. Still some processing going on. And so was the reason is we see okay. And it has stopped performing. So NSOM file system is it's not able to create vSAN disk. Right. So what I'm doing is I just put that because I didn't see that error before. So I just wrote that error in Google and will create LSOM file system because everything seems to be fine. And this is not something that ever happened. These are environment issues and fixes. So I'll just quickly check this out because I could just still restart. I had not restarted it since last time. Well, reason should be NTP because I find my easiest as I games fast more 8 hours. Then Vcenter's time. Oh, my timing seriously is that? Oh, it's wrong. That's the machine timing. Obviously, the machine they're on top of should have the correct. So it's 22.5. It's actually 1 day ahead. 21 date and time. I put it on automatic. Thought on Eastern. -5. Eastern US Canada. And it's one time. Serious. Okay. All right, yeah, good. Supposed to be okay. 129, 522. Okay, you know what? I have to restart and check the timing. So it's underlying infrastructure timing that is true. There's no save button here. Seriously, I'm sure there's change. Okay, I transferred it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I need to really fix this time. So I'm gonna shut down this machine here, and I'll go to the BIOS and check the time there, and then I'll start the machine and start the hosts. We can take a break here. So 4:30, 4:50 we can meet Canada time, and 3:50 we can meet US time. So I'll just put it here. And by the time I'll just shut down and try to change the time there for the underlying hardware. Unmute and pause the video. All right, guys. So I checked the time that time is correct now. So I'll just quickly go ahead and turn on the okay, so I actually need to connect to the other hypervisor to enable to turn on that machine of VCSA. E6I1 root. I had to shut down all the machines so they could grab the correct time from the underlying hardware. And because of that, the VCSA and everything had to be powered off. We go to this and manage time and date. Yeah. Yeah, it is Saturday. Settings. So it's the time above is okay. How come it is? So this machine is up and I'm just trying to remotely connect to the vCenter. So I'll just put the link here and when it connects, then so it's automatically trying to refresh and connect to this URL. Okay, so and check it from here that if the VCSM machine has started. Yeah. Okay. So the background services will start, and that just takes time. So the disks will not be claimed. So what I can do is once we are connected back to the vCenter, I can just remove. I'll try to check if if we can refresh the vSAN settings. Otherwise, I'll. Okay, so no healthy upstream. This means it's kind of on its way, and the background services are not available. Like they're starting. So this is the VCSA starting. That's taking time. Okay, while this is starting, so So the error came because of the wrong time of the machine. So that can also happen. Came because of the underlying hardware. And the time of the machine is set correctly now. We will try to reconfigure the vSAN. Excuse me. So yeah, this is it is it's just the services are still starting. I think I also have 4 hypervisors up, so the memory overall memory is less now. So I'll just temporarily suspend these 2 guys until the vCenter comes up. So they should not be using 12 GB of memory. That would be freed up for the vCenter overall to get started. Okay, that's in this. It's kind of starting using CPU memory and storage. So I just put the UI as well and forward slash. Okay, still processing this. Wow. Oh, so it's this Windows machine that is having wrong time, but otherwise the time of my it's the Windows machine. So I'll just I put it on automatic and I'll try to restart just the Windows machine. because the VCS in the background would have started the services by now. So vSAN is that one service that actually requires a correct time in choosing the underlying hardware. But I think this incorrect time was there when I configured backup and updates and FT. So they all went well. So vSAN is more sensitive and it requires time sync of all machines for it to actually work because it's using combination of 3 machines minimum for it to work. Live environments are fantastic. Service. Okay. Stubborn. Okay, so the old style. You kidding me? I No, it's okay. So I'll just try to connect again. All right, so it's the background choices are working now. It's a big software, so if there's any small change that need to be uh, implemented, then because of the hardware limitation, it takes much longer time. Okay, finally. Okay, so finally it's starting. Okay, so the other two machines that were shut down, I'll just resume them. They should be joining the vCenter soon. Okay, so error, if there has been error is gone, then they should be configured correctly, or I do have to reconfigure them. Okay, so these two machines need to just communicate. They are already started. So refresh on the two. Two machines are still in the process of being detected. I have to check that. What is the error here? State disconnected. Okay, that's very strange that why would they be disconnected? So this is saying connected here, and this here is saying disconnected. When they're disconnected, basically they have to be added. The wizard starts for the connectivity just like we add the hosts to the data center. So I'm right clicking here, connections. It's very strange that they got disconnected. Resource management changes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it should start a wizard. This one. So the name is already there. ABC admission fields summary. Okay, so I may have to remove them from the cluster and then into the data center, and then add them back again to the cluster. So I'll just so I need to move them out of this cluster into the data center. Yeah, move host to cluster. Okay, So the first machine is 6i3 that is there. I'll just try to connect this machine, retrieving data from vCenter. So before there was a time sync issue, so that was resolved. But for that, we had to shut down all the machines. And now when we're back, so okay, so one machine is back. It's okay now. The other machine is the A6i4 that is who's going to communicate with one or more of the nodes of the vSAN enabled cluster. Just push it further. EVC admission failed. Okay. So I go to the tasks here. This machine, I guess, was not added to the EVC, enhanced vMotion compatibility. We did that for all the other machines, so I'm just gonna check that again. I go to the Tor cluster and then configure. And there's the EVC, but EVC is enabled. It is enabled for any machine here, so that should not be the issue. Other than that, okay, I'll have to properly, instead of resuming, I'll just shut down and restart the machine. So, yep, if any kind of issue arises in a big application, sometimes the underlying hardware start responding or start giving errors. And we have to keep T-shooting it until it stop giving errors. And start them again. Let's start it now. Okay, so okay, the machine is shut down and started, and hopefully it responds. Okay, now it's out of the cluster, and now I'm going to try to connect to it. It's VCLS services are on here as well. So VCLS virtual machine that runs the cluster services is kind of starting machine configuration. It has the three VCLS services. Because of that, the cluster services were not working. So now those are starting. Okay. So the VCLS machines are still starting. Now I'm going to check if the connection. Now I need to connect this, just like the other machine, it should also get connected, just like the other hypervisor. Retrieving data from vCenter agent on 6504. Okay, now we got all hypervisors back in action. I need to put them back from, so they're not in the cluster yet because they were not, we were not able to detect them. So I'll just put them back into cluster one by one from data center to cluster. Okay, again, 683 is saying, process of type vendor Intel family 06 and it's saying ABC. Let me just turn off ABC so at least they should go inside the cluster. ABC is just enhanced vMotion compatibilities. Just trying to, this is ABC, that's vMotion compatibility. It just tells the hypervisor that all is compatible right now with the Sandy Bridge or anyone. So I'll just disable it for the time being because the error seems to be related to EVC, but I have to turn it on later. Okay, let me check if the processor is according to what we did to get them enabled. But yeah, so IOM was selected. Oh yeah, I did not do that for 4. That's why the ABC error was coming, I guess. Oh, the third option is not selected here. That can only be selected with shutdown. So it's just vSAN that is very, very sensitive service, and everything has to be totally perfect for it to really work. Okay, so E683 that was not getting added before is now added. Since the VCLS services were running out of E684, I should shut down E684 so I could just change its processing option so it could be detected in UVC as well, enhanced vMotion compatibility. Once again, it's back. It has to be rejected here, and all the vCenter sources are started as well. I'm checking the summary here just to check what are the exact errors. Host connection, power state, cannot synchronize, count, say for what is going to be member of this host vCenter cluster. Yeah, it's part of the vCenter. Okay, so 654 is now good. And now finally add it to the cluster. So now once they are all added to the cluster, after the time sync t-shoot, so finally they are all in the cluster. I'm going to go back to, so there's this EVC, and hopefully vSAN is not dependent on that, but it's not supposed to. I'll just go simply and put it back to okay. I think it was Sandy Bridge. Now EVC is not going to be working for now. If one thing moves, the other things are also affected by those. The computer does not support the. Okay, it's just doing the same thing again. I'll just turn on the HA and DRS. In fact, first I'll just check that if vSAN is okay. I go to vSAN services. It says turn off vSAN. This means it is on, and it just says that you haven't started. I've not finished or skipped the cluster quick start. Checks or suppressed. Our checks are suppressed right now. So they're just saying that go to the quick start and just do some checking of whether vSAN is working or not. I'll just go directly to the storage here just to check that if there was any data store created by the name of vSAN data store. So there is one vSAN data store created. If I select that and go to how many hosts it is connected to, it is comprised of. So it is comprised of 3 hosts. So it seems like it's good. The vSAN data store, it's okay. Now the vSAN data store has been created. So if I go to the diagram here, so vSAN data store was supposed to be this one here. So that data store has been created here, and it is comprised of the 3 disks. Okay, so that is the vSAN data store. Now, on top of, if we go to this, so the vCenter store is created and the disks are the hosts are showing there. So if I go back to the hosts and cluster section here, and so that's the vSAN services. And disk management, if I go there for vSAN, all 6 disks are on version 13.0. And it does say unhealthy, but they're going to be healthy soon. Like they're just being heartbeats are being sent there. And fault domain failures to tolerate, for now it's 0. Click plus icon or drag and drop here to create a new fault domain. But if I go to standalone hosts, so there is that 3 hosts here, and so if I drag this host here to consider it as a fault domain, enter name for the new fault domain. So FD1. So if I say that, hey, this host is supposed to be FD1, 365 host, and then I go for the other host, that is the next fault domain, FD2. So as we discussed the concept of fault domains, that each host can be a fault domain, and then it can cover FD3. So it's going to detect that, it's going to update its setting. For now, it's a conversion type is a single site. If we go to store sharing, view and manage remote vSAN data stores mounted to this cluster. No, there's no remote data stores. We have mount remote data store. So we don't have any other data stores other than what we have here. So in terms of fault domains, I have selected those, so it will be detected by vSAN later, and it would just give that message. Also, if you go to vSAN clusters, so license expiration, yeah, time here, and the features that it supports, alarm definition, everything. So, well, basically, there is a highly available vSAN data store created, but sometimes it's taking more time to discover itself and enable all the features in the background. It does take a lot of time in that too, but still, I would want to create a virtual machine. I've been creating a virtual machine on other data stores. So if I go to the storage here, these are the other data stores from the software SAN, W1, DS1, DS2, DS3, 1, 1, 2, 3. But this is the vSAN data store comprised of the local minimum 2 disks of 3 hypervisors. So what I would want to do is to create a virtual machine and check it out that are we able to still use this data store vSAN data store now, because it just got created, so it does do a lot of configurations in the background, and until then those are done, the virtual machine that we create right away after the creation of the data store, vSAN data store, starts giving some errors as well. So I'll go for EN04. So that's the vSAN data store. Data store default, management storage policy, and there's a vSAN default storage policy. vSAN default storage policy here. If we go select next, then yes, it's the latest version 10.01. And I'm not going to be installing the operating system, but just giving some operating system here. For now, the disk size is, so it's not, okay, if I go to 20, or it's not really letting me put it this size. This means it's just, oh, so right now the space is not available. Um, so it does take time for the data, for the vSAN data store to really let us use that. So obviously, if there's no space available, obviously we cannot create a virtual machine here. This means still it's in the process until it starts offering us the disks. I'm just going to go for disk management again and check it out. So yeah, it does take more time here. Claim unused disk, create disk group. I'll try to go, all disks are available, it says. I'm just going to go for claim unused disk, although we have already claimed it. Yeah, do not claim. So no, we already claimed it. So that's why it's saying do not claim. Um, so those disks are already, the vSAN, main thing is the vSAN data center is created, and it does take time for it to be fully used, and its background services. We've seen that in the past as well, that it uses its background services. Um, like it is usable after some time. Just like when we are starting VCSA, it's so big, its background services are still um, working. Also, there's that you have not finished or skipped the cluster quick start vSAN health checks are suppressed. Now, before go for health checks, because HA is disabled, it should then it may create a problem. So I'm just gonna enable the HA and proactive HA. So the health statistics should be there, and DRS as well. Also in HA, I don't want the admission control to be disabled, because then for capacity reservation, it doesn't let us use one machine, one of the two machines. So DRS, that needs to be, so it's just pushing its agents to all, HA is pushing its agents to all the hypervisors. So DRS is still on already. So these errors will go away once it has deployed the agents, or they tend to stay a little longer. The agent versus host has an error which cannot be installed or configured. Now, in order for the HA to deploy the agents on these three machines, I'll temporarily just I can just turn off the lockdown mode. So the HA agents from Pro cluster can actually remotely get deployed here. But I've seen that if I just remove it from cluster and then add it again, and they're deployed again, so it does work. But I'll just go there first, and just to have all the errors out away before I could start the health checks of the vSAN. Oh, it's already disabled, so this is good. So I can just remove from cluster and add to cluster. The disabled. disabled. Okay, so they're already disabled. Now it says that its agents cannot be installed. We may have to push it out and push it back again for the agents to be installed. So, well, basically in production environments also, we do give it time. We just deploy a host on the weekend, and then it takes time for the agent to really communicate. So here in the lab, we are just expecting everything right away to be done. So I could just try to take it out if it accepts that. It just says that put hosts in maintenance mode and then put them back. Turn maintenance mode, don't move my machines. Okay, so it says that there are some powered on machines there that it will power off maintenance mode. So I'm just trying to remove the errors of the host from the agent. So all three are in. The 02 is on maintenance mode. I'll just put it back to the data center. On this also, I'll put it back to data center. Data center. It has the VCLS, so it's just giving an issue here. Okay, so they're all gone actually outside of the cluster, and I'll just put them back, exit maintenance mode. Just maintenance mode was there just to kick them out of the cluster and then put them back. Why put them back? Because we need the HA agents to be successfully installed and reporting back to HA from the host that the host is okay. So they're out of the cluster. vSAN and HA lives inside the cluster, so the hosts need to go inside the cluster as well. So the first host is going and the agents are being deployed there. Maybe we could let the process finish for the first host, so we could put the others back as well. But basically, the vSAN has been deployed and vSAN data store has been created. It's just that it takes its services are huge and they take time in the background to really let us use it. So it is spanning across 3 hypervisors. So yeah, while this is going on, so next class will be the last one where we will cover the smaller topics that are remaining, and then I'll let you know about the voucher as well. Or and then we can wrap up. Okay, the first host is good with okay, the VCLS or the cluster-based machine still trying to start. So the first host seems to be good. I love the second host. Owen. Okay, so the second host is successfully added. Oh, some machines are still starting. So now I'm adding third host with its VCLS. Okay, so yeah, all three hosts are inside the cluster, and there are no errors, and HA is fully deployed now. HA agents are communicating. Okay, machine was remaining, I guess. Okay, so Tor cluster has some, that red error here. So carrot, we carrot find V2HA master agent. vSAN health alarms are suppressed. Vcenter server is unable to find a master vSphere agent in the cluster. I think that error should be gone now, as the error hosts are not showing any kind of errors. So I'll just refresh that to get those guys, get those errors removed. And, and okay, so I'll just try to acknowledge, reset to green this and this, because it seems like they're okay, and they're, yeah, reporting successfully. So I'm just gonna go ahead, Tor cluster, and go to configure, and here EVC, I'll try that once more, because we had that compatibility before. Now it's not showing the compatibility that it was showing before. So, well, the software, that's the problem with this. It works and then it doesn't work. As far as our vSAN is concerned here, so it is saying that you have not finished get the cluster quick start vSAN. Before that, we have already confirmed that it's working, like it's installed there, and it takes time. Okay, now what was configured is not showing. So this means that whatever changes I've made here, it is just causing that vSAN data store to be not showing, although it is already created and it's going to show. So any changes we make or any T-shoot we do could cause the vSAN data store to temporarily not be available. So I'll just go ahead and try to check what's matter. 6 CPUs up to 32 cores, evaluation, sorry, services. It is. I may have to turn it off and on again just to get that vSAN again back on the data store. And it's checking the disks. So once it is created, then after that FVT should then services even uh, go slower to recover. Sorry. Okay. What I can do is I can just try to reconfigure this again, like just not reconfigure, but refresh. Because powered on virtual machines on this vSAN data store to lose their storage, crash the VMs. Yeah, I haven't created a virtual machine on top of it, so I'll just click. So I updated the configuration and I'll just refresh it. But otherwise, the steps that I showed, if you follow those steps, you will get a working. We will get a configured vSAN, but then you have to leave the environment for a while. So all the services in the background are really up to date. Okay, so I turned off the vSAN, so it's going to take some time here. Then I'll turn it on again and check if the data store is still showing. Okay, so okay, so other than that, we can also talk about the voucher. Or well, next week we're going to be just finishing up, wrapping up smaller topics, and then. Okay, assign person. Okay. So guys, I wanted to send you the 70% discount vouchers. For that, I needed your Net Plus emails. Um, Okay, so next week we're gonna be just finishing up and covering some smaller topics, and then the voucher information I'll be giving there. And so for now, that's it. So Eric says that don't we have classes? So yeah, Eric, I didn't count those classes as so suppose there was a third class, then we missed the fourth class. So the next class was supposed to be fifth. I considered them that as fourth. So I never counted those classes that were missed. Uh, okay, so time limit is 1 year. Mostly. Okay, so voucher, but three students till now has broken that record of not using the voucher, forgot to use the voucher. So voucher time limit is 1 year, but if we let it go, then I'll do it later. Then most probably you won't, students won't be able to do that. So many students don't use it because they put it to later. And you can request, I think you've already requested from Mary, uh, some sample questions, so you can just so next class I will be asking that request vouchers for you. And that will push me to take the, oh, okay. You have an agency that will push you to take, that's a very good somebody is following up with you. Otherwise, majority of the students ignore this 70% discount, and wow, I'm just amazed. How can they do that? So that would be good. If you have taken, sample uh, practice questions from Mary, that's very good. Then you should be ready in few 2 3 weeks. What within this month, like within 1 month after the voucher has been received, in 1 month you should be giving the exam. So that would be the best way to go ahead. Otherwise, just a month of delay or 2 months of delay, good luck. Then we forget. Okay, guys. So, well, we're gonna just wrap up in the next class, and I'll tell you how to use a voucher and who pays. Obviously, it's 70% discount, and those who are coming from government, so sponsorship. So obviously, the college will arrange that rest of the 30% payment, I guess. So how to use that? So, okay. How long are these videos available? 1 year, guys. Email Mary, Mary at networkscollege.com, that we will be accessing those videos for 1 year. So please do not close our account, do not disable our accounts. It's a good thing to email that. Although she told me she will not disable it, but when you email it, it just she doesn't then forget as well, or she will put it as a reminder not to disable your emails. And do keep checking and regularly log in. Otherwise, accounts before 1 year gets disabled as well when they have lost track of who's connecting where. Okay. Oh yeah. So Octavian has already put that those two emails, and that would be a very good idea to tell these guys. Please do not block our emails. Okay, guys. One more thing. For the voucher. Um, so I'll be sending you on the email, but I hope you have already logged into this site. D2L. I think you've logged in already to D2L Brightspace. So I'll be requesting from VMware vouchers for you. And there should be a link coming to your email that should tell something about that. Hey, your voucher is there, or just check it out in the D2L Brightspace. A good thing would be if you could just put your email here, NetWest College email. So we could initiate the process. Oh, there you go. So Mary's email is also there in the chat, guys. Oh, okay. So Eric is saying those were for purchase the vouchers. Okay, they're not for the course. Okay, okay, Milton. Net. .ca, right? Okay. And then it's comma separated. So what else? Oh, not sure what it is. .ca. Yeah. So this college has two domains. One is .com. One is .ca. For students and teachers, it's .ca for the whole year. And okay, I'll be putting the emails there on the other side. It's already there as well. But yeah, it's a college email, so. So guys, others are, I think, Eric at Netplus College, I guess. Yeah, Eric. Netplus College and Octavian at Netplus. All right, so I'm putting that on the other screen now. So Eric, your email is eric@networkscollege, and then Octavian@networkscollege.com. Let me check if that went. Okay, so I'm just clicking submit. And just correct that. Oh, Eric, if you're there, can you share your email? Mhm. So, I entered the other two emails, but it's oh, maybe it's Eric. And okay, I have to check the email. I'll drag this to the other screen and quickly check it and confirm to you. Oh, okay. It is Eric at pluscon.ca. Hmm. I actually put that ERIC at net plus. Oh, okay. Comma. Okay. I'm just requesting on the other side. So, add net plus college dot is not a valid user, really? Okay, what is the email format? It's just giving me this error. I'm checking the Milton at net plus college dot. So why is it not? Yeah, it is MILDON at net plus. Okay, so it's and, right. So guys, I will then submit that if there are some smaller website issues, I think, are showing here. So I'll be requesting that. Thank you for giving your email. So next week, we'll just wrap it up and try to cover some smaller topics. And voucher, by this week, you should be getting in your emails some kind of email from Networks College and or from VMware that the vouchers are there in your D2L. So there should be a link there. If no email is there, then in next class we'll just sort it out. So I'll just request now, and they do take a little time here. Eric, Mary, I think Octavian, you have the sample or test questions. So
Like,
uh,
Mary can answer the questions about
okay,
this,
yeah. So
the practice test and all that. So she's the person talk to.
oh,
Mary at netpluscollege.com. I already put her email in chat.
thank you. So Eric, there's email for Mary that is already in. So I'm just putting in the chat again. You can email her. Okay. Got it. So I'll be just requesting that, but there's no notifications, or I'll just give it one. I think. Okay, so guys, yeah, I'll be requesting that and letting you know. Maybe you will receive an email during the week. So let's meet in next class. We'll just wrap it up. in that class. And if there are any questions, and if you get the practice test by then, that's good. Otherwise, you will get it definitely.
And before you leave, could you upload week 8 and week 11 videos?
Oh yes. So week 8. Oh, okay. Eric, you should be receiving yours. Sorry, I'm just saying that too, as I see that one request for Eric is successful. Yeah, I'll be uploading that now as well. Octavia, I'm just trying yours with VMware.
Awesome.
Mhm.
It helps with the practice.
Oh yes, definitely. Okay, so Eric and Octavian, your request is being processed for voucher, so you should be getting some kind of email. Sometimes it's terribly fast, um, and few times it's slow. Okay, Milton, how come that is not? Two plus. Milton is not a valid user. Seriously, okay, I'll ask Mary what's wrong with this username. But Eric and Octavian, you got yours is processing. Milton, you will also be very soon receiving the voucher. Okay, guys, so I'll just upload the videos. I'll stop the recording, and obviously this will take time to process and become available. So, the today's video, but last